Today on the Surviving the Human Experience podcast, we are going to be discussing a very prevalent topic affecting millions of humans across the globe. We are going to talk about burnout with life coach Jennifer Brown today. Jennifer is the life and leadership coach that takes high achieving professionals through a step by step process to get purpose focused and redirected on their own journey of grace. She spent over 20 years leading and challenging environments through the U.S. Department of State Foreign Service, where she thrived in high stakes strategy, operational leadership, and building high performing teams. This pace, this very high pace, high pressure environment eventually led to burnout. Jen began her journey as a certified coach and began her work as an internal leadership coach at the State Department and founded Journey of Grace Life and Leadership Coaching. She supports burned out high achievers in reconnecting with purpose, building a roadmap for what's next, and stepping into the life of leadership they are meant to live, personally and professionally. So welcome to the show, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here with you.
Yes, I am really excited about this topic. It keeps coming
Yeah,
up. People keep bringing it up. And so we are going to dive deep today. So
yeah.
I want to thank you in advance for sharing your time. We are going to talk about how this is impacting so many people on the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual level. So we're
Yeah.
going in.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So let's start off by having you share with our listeners, because you're new to the show. I'd like to share who Jennifer Brown is and how you started in this space.
Well, thank you for this. So,
Yes.
as you noted, I was working as a Foreign Service officer with the Department of State, a wonderful privilege to serve my country. And I spent the majority of my time working in and on Latin American affairs.
Mm,
And at one point, I became the burned out leader. I was leading a
mm,
pretty large team and we were facing a few challenges, and I felt the need to control everything. I had to fix it. My team was
mhm,
stretched thin, they were burned out,
mhm,
and we had a lot of change going on. But the more that I tried to control, the worse it got.
mm,
And add in some imposter syndrome, recipe for burnout for sure.
mm, mm,
And so I got a leadership coach. And it was when I started doing my own inner work
mhm,
that I started growing, releasing control, helping my team grow, empowering them. And
mm,
together, like it was a night and day story from when I first started in that position. And
mhm,
so I became a believer in coaching, leadership
mhm,
coaching in particular at that point. A few years later, I went through some personal transitions and got another coach, and it just really cemented my passion for being able to walk alongside
mm,
people when they are struggling or when
mm,
they're looking to grow.
mhm.
And so from that place, Journey of Grace coaching began. And I did become a certified coach, started as an internal coach with the Department of State, and then officially transitioned out of the government in April of this year and really am launching Journey of Grace full time right now.
Oh, I love it. That's such a powerful story. And something you said that made me just kind of pause was the reaction to feel like you had to control the situation, to feel like as a leader, you're called to fix it, right? It's this
Yes.
burden that is carried, and then that eventually leads to the burnout because you're
Yeah.
you're burning the candle at both ends. And then the team's looking at you like, the personality has changed.
Yeah.
What's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
it's so true. And I think from let's define leader first
Hmm.
and foremost,
Hmm.
because we all lead from wherever
Yes.
we sit.
Hmm.
We have influence at home, in the workplace, in the community, on social media. And
Hmm.
so how we show up for ourselves and those around us really defines what our impact is. And when we hang on to that control, yeah, it's really reflected in all
Yeah.
aspects of our lives.
Oh, wow. And I'm so glad you pointed out that you recognized that there were some things you wanted to do different. And so you got a coach.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because those who feel that it's so necessary to fix their own problems. They're the overachiever, they're the type A. I've got it. I can handle it. I'm going to do it all. To recognize the power that comes with teaming up with somebody who can listen, support, point things out that, sometimes we don't even realize we're doing until we have that conversation. So I'm glad you shared that part because I always tell people everybody should have a coach and for
Yeah,
multiple areas of your life, right? You don't have to
yeah,
just have one coach. You can have
no.
one for multiple areas. Yeah. All right. So
So,
here we
so
go with
very
burnout.
true. I know, I know. One thing, if I can just add,
Yes. Yes.
as the hyperachiever, since you noted that,
Mhm.
leaders are often the type A hyperachiever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a small business owner in a corporate environment, in the government, the type A-ness is
Hmm.
really key because our inner critic, and this
Hmm.
I know will come up as we start to talk about burnout, that
Yes.
inner critic is really running on steroids. So everything that we do is magnified in that
Hmm.
space. So just understanding where these actions start to come from is so key to getting into
Yes.
burnout.
Yeah. When you said that, it's a kind of a funny thing, kind of unrelated, but related. I can remember being at the eye doctor's, and it was right before I did the LASIK eye surgery. And I was coming up on getting my license renewed. You got to do the vision test, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to read this chart in front of me, being a type A. And I'm like, oh, I can't read the letters. And I'm like really focused. And so the doctor laughed at me. She said, Kristen, you hyper focus on things. Your vision is fine. So it made me think of it
Yeah.
when you said that
Yeah.
because you lock in and you feel this need to, we got to get it done, right? And that's what
Yes.
comes with that personality. And in a leadership role, you are expected to deliver certain
Yeah.
things. And if you fall short of that, it all starts rolling down the hill. And so,
It does.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that hyper focusing really just stuck out in that example when she said you hyper focus when you're looking at charts. And I'm like, maybe I should take a deep breath and relax and just read E, F, whatever the letters are.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
It's kind of like when we let go, then
yes.
we get to be intentional. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump in. So, as the pace of life keeps accelerating and stressors continue, they're increasing day by day. We're seeing the rate of burnout just really increase at alarming rates. Let's have you kind of define for us what is burnout? Like, what specifically is that?
So, in preparation for this, I thought, well, I have my definition of burnout, right? But
Uh-huh.
what do the experts say?
Right.
And so it was interesting because the World Health Organization
Hmm.
says it's a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. I was like, interesting. I didn't realize the World Health Organization had a definition for this because
Hmm.
when I think of burnout, I am thinking of that sheer exhaustion,
Yes.
physically, mentally,
Hmm.
emotionally,
Hmm.
spiritually.
Hmm.
I am thinking of not being able to turn off.
Hmm.
I am thinking of all the extra weight that we are carrying,
Hmm.
right? That just makes us lose our sense of purpose, lose
Right.
any motivation.
Hmm.
And so, just really thinking about how does burnout show up,
Yeah.
right? If we're not successfully managing this,
Hmm.
and yet we still have to go to work,
Right.
what do we do with this?
Hmm.
And beyond that definition of burnout,
Hmm.
what's been interesting to me in this space is doing some research on impact
Mm.
beyond the personal level.
Right.
And so the Development Dimension International organization shared a survey or some results of
Hmm.
burnout, and this really stands out. 71% of leaders
Hmm.
are reporting higher stress since assuming leadership roles.
Hmm.
82% of employees are at risk of burnout.
Mm.
82%.
So high.
And the workplace reports $4 to $21,000 per person per year in
Ugh,
turnover and productivity. So we have the
staggering.
personal
Hmm.
cost,
Hmm.
we have the financial cost in
Hmm.
organizations,
Hmm.
right? And how do we even measure that personal cost?
Hmm. Yeah,
What number
it's
do we
hard.
put on that? Hmm.
Yeah, without being able to really have people share, um, is your sick leave because you're needing that time?
Yeah, yeah,
And is it a true illness? Doctor's appointments, without digging into people's personal space, which you really can't, especially
right.
with all of the different rules and regulations and laws and HIPAA and all of those things.
That's right.
Looking at maybe employee assistance programs and seeing the increased usage of them. And then there are those that are just going to suffer in silence. And those are your
Right.
people that either resign, quit,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
completely say, forget it, get fired.
yeah,
Um, there's so many things that can happen. And it'd be hard, I think, like you're saying, to truly measure
yeah,
burnout because not everybody's going to share what they're going through. Everybody's going to,
yeah.
either be expressive or be ashamed to even admit it, which is not
Right,
what should
right,
happen, right? We all need
right.
support and different seasons call for different things. So, in your expert opinion, what do you think are the contributing factors to burnout being on the rise, in
Yeah,
addition to what we've covered?
yeah. I mean, I think it really does start with that constantly being on call,
Mm,
the 24/7 nature.
okay.
So technology, great. And what we learned right with COVID is that we really are accessible
Mm-hmm.
everywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So unless we put some strong boundaries in place, we have the technology to be on call, and there's that sense of responsibility of needing to be on call.
Mm,
So then, when we have that constantly being on call
mm-hmm.
nature, there's
Mm-hmm.
also that inner critic voice that is judging us if we are not living up to the expectation. I didn't get this done. I didn't do that. I still need to do this. I failed here.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that inner critic voice is saying to you, it is
Mm-hmm.
pushing you to go more and more.
Right.
I think there's the other piece of all of this that is like, we don't always make the decisions for which we are responsible to
Sure.
carry out. We
Mm-hmm.
don't always choose the people on our teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the stress of how do I work in this environment that may not align with my values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a huge component, what you just shared. So being able to understand the learning styles, being able to learn the communication styles, um, because oftentimes, absolutely, you can be thrown into an environment where you're inheriting some
Totally.
people's some people's
Totally.
problems
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
some really amazing achievers. But
Yeah.
either way, as a leader, you're being charged with leading and delivering results, whatever that is for that particular team. Yeah.
And as the leader, right, it's not just our burnout. If 82% of employees are at risk of burnout, what's
Yes.
going on with our team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are they feeling?
Right.
Because if we're all suffering in silence, right, that shame, which will keep festering and making it worse,
Yes.
and we're not sharing and having hard conversation,
Mm,
then we are not getting to the root of whatever is going on. So
mhm.
as a leader, yes, doing our own work, and how are we setting the stage for our team, for our families?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so looking at the team dynamics, we don't always know what they're showing up with, right? So
Yeah,
if they've got something going on at home or there's a stressor
yeah,
and they're coming in there and they're not feeling safe or comfortable,
right, right.
to be able to express that. I was talking with a gentleman in California and we were talking about conflict conversations and communications. And one of the conversations was about psychological safety in team
Yes,
environments. And it's such a huge thing. And when you're all coming together. And, you could be the quote unquote leader for the day, right? You might have
Yeah.
that title, but there's a
Yeah.
leader above the leader. So there's
Right.
pressure coming down and it just keeps going
Completely.
down. And as
Completely.
that keeps going down, it's rolling down the hill. And as you mentioned too, the pandemic really showed us the accessibility of
Yeah.
individuals and bringing work into the home. And so there was a blurred line, I believe, that began to be crossed between work and home. And typically, when people leave work, they're able to, okay, now let me go
Yeah.
switch into a different gear and play whatever role they need to play at home. Once we invited that into our personal space, for lack of better words,
Right.
um,
Right.
it created this monster in a way.
Yeah, totally. And 10x'd it because I think that to
Yes.
some extent that did exist before, right? I think that as soon
Yes.
as the Blackberries, the pagers, the Blackberries, the
Yes.
iPhone, all the
Mm-hmm.
tablets, et cetera. I mean, this has been in motion for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, the pandemic just really took down those boundaries of
Mm-hmm.
what does personal space look like and how
Yes.
do I take this hat off and put this hat on?
Yes.
And so the leader's job, like you're saying too, in protecting the team as
Mm-hmm.
everything's rolling downhill, who's
Right.
stepping up to have the hard conversations with the leader above and
Mm-hmm.
that leader above? And
Yes.
so really checking in to say, here's the real pulse of my team.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the real pulse of me. And
Right.
so as the leader is facing burnout management,
Mm-hmm.
overwhelm management. And I
Mm-hmm.
say management because I don't think that we can truly expect to eliminate this.
Right.
The pressures are in place, they will remain in
Mm-hmm.
place. So it's up to us in how we lead to manage
Yes.
these
Makes sense.
conditions.
Makes
And
sense.
so that comes with hard conversation. And that is really coming with how are we prioritizing the truly urgent and important,
Mm-hmm.
because not everything can be urgent and important or else nothing is prioritized and getting done, right? So
Agreed.
the good old Pareto principle, what's in that 20% bucket where we
Yes.
really need to focus our attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece of all of this is as leaders, how are we delegating to our teams? How are we communicating the vision,
Yeah.
why the work is important, how they contribute to the work, why their work is important,
Mm-hmm.
where are the gaps and how they are, what they are expected to do and where they are in
Mm.
terms of skill and
Yes.
knowledge. And then how can we empower them in a way that we are still walking with them and not leaving them hanging out there to dry alone, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Makes
Because the
sense completely.
responsibility still stays with us.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, being able to shield and protect the team in a way that still allows the work to get done.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's a
still
delicate
holds.
dance.
It is. It is. The work
Hmm.
still has to be done. Expectations still are what they
Yes.
are,
Hmm.
but it's our job to filter.
It
Yeah.
is. All right, so recognizing burnout, we're going to go there. So often, because societal conditioning has defined success and achievement based on how much you do, right? What's the output and what did you accomplish? The go, go, go lifestyle that has been glorified by many and is touted in lots of performance appraisal systems. So, because of this mentality and accepting or being in a space where work is kind of now in that format, and we become on an autopilot, is what I like to say. You
Yeah.
do things
Yeah.
without even recognizing it, right? So, can
Yeah.
you share some wisdom and insight into how someone can address patterns of living life on autopilot?
Mm. This topic is near and dear to my heart because in the coaching space, I
Mm-hmm.
have been following the work and doing the work that Shirzad Shamin started with positive intelligence,
Hmm.
which is a different level of emotional intelligence, if you
Okay.
will. And so the autopilot
Mm.
inner critic is where this really starts. The
Okay.
autopilot thoughts that we have, whether it's I need to hang on to control, this isn't perfect, you
Mm-hmm.
failed, um, I need to be that hyperachiever, always going from
Mm-hmm.
one success to the next successful thing, people pleasing, right? We were
Yes.
conditioned to actually have these thoughts from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't matter if you had a great childhood and not so great childhood, we learned feedback
Mm-hmm.
based on the inherent strengths that we had as children.
Yes.
And so over the years, and by the time we were young adults, we really started overusing and abusing our strengths because we saw patterns of
Mm-hmm.
success.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but certain patterns in my life, I
Yeah.
think were successful in
Mm-hmm.
helping me advance in my career.
Mm-hmm.
That hyperachiever, perfectionism,
Mm-hmm.
people pleasing,
Yes.
all of that. So I had these autopilot thoughts because they were telling me, I helped you get here.
Mm. Wow.
So deep
Yes.
breath,
Yeah.
because
Oh.
when we stop and realize that those are the autopilot thoughts and we don't look at the negative impact in the
Mm-hmm.
workplace, in our personal relationships, in our wellness,
Mm.
yeah,
Yes.
we
Huge.
miss it. So step
Huge.
one is really being aware of when these thoughts appear,
Mm-hmm.
being slowing down to recognize I just had this thought.
Mm.
Is that true? Because we accept it just as truth because we don't question it. So
Right.
stopping, slowing down, questioning the thought.
Mm.
In the positive intelligence or PQ space, there's an element of mindfulness like exercises. I call
Mm-hmm.
them mental health,
Okay.
mental fitness exercises.
Uh-huh.
And it can be the breathing exercises. There's one in particular I love to share because, especially sitting in a meeting, you can just take two fingertips and start to really rub them together to where you feel the ridges.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that under a table right now so that as I'm
Yes.
having this thought, questioning, what am I saying that's wrong to Kristen, right?
Right.
Like, am I
Right.
showing up the way I want to
Uh-huh.
show up? And so, catching that thought, rubbing my fingertips together, I'm starting to break that thought pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so that allows me the space then to say, what thought will serve me here?
Mm.
And I like to actually reverse engineer that because what is the result that I'm looking for? Is it that in this podcast, I know that I want to cover these particular things because I'm so passionate about them? So
Yes.
if that's the case, then deep breath, work that way back. That's the result. What actions, what points do I specifically need to say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What feeling do I need to have to be able to say that, right? Feeling
Mm.
of confidence
Right.
and grace for myself.
Yes.
And so the thought is, I know this. I can be me.
Mm-hmm.
I can show up. And I'm using this personal general example,
Absolutely.
right? But certainly, if you're sitting in a corporate boardroom or you're sitting in a meeting wherever you are, you're running your own business and your employees are like, what are we doing now? And you're on this call, like feeling overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Slow down, break that thought pattern, and then
Mm-hmm.
be intentional about how you're setting yourself up to get to the result that you want.
Ooh, I love it. So as you were talking, I'm thinking about Pavlov's experiment and the dog and the bell. And
Yeah.
um, so if you're seeing through life that, ooh, if I clean my room, I get to go out and play. If I
Yes.
do my homework and get a good grade, I get financially rewarded. And so those limiting beliefs start to form because now we're seeing there's this positive reinforcement to an activity or
Yes.
action. And so we're going to keep doing it. So I love how you drew that line to show us how and connected those dots to see where that shows up in our adult space. Um, but then also, I mean, oh my gosh, you hit on so many key things there. The mindfulness, being able to use your senses to bring yourself back into your body, to reconnect. And the finger, I love that. Being able to rub your fingers. That's a great one. I would tell people, like, if you just rub your pants or your shirt, you just
Yes.
need to feel something to kind of bring you back into the space that you're in.
Yes.
And then you talk about the pattern interruption, being able to interrupt that thought and then
Yeah.
challenge that inner critic. So it's
Yes.
crazy how we just sit here and we have all these thoughts that we've got going around in our minds. And half of them, I mean, more than half, aren't even true, but they're narratives and stories that we've believed or told ourselves over time. And so sometimes it's just enough to say, well, what if that's not true? Well,
Right.
oh my gosh, what does that look like if it's not
Right.
true? What do I do
E-
with that now?
Exactly. And
Yeah,
you know, we create the mind will create the evidence for
mhm,
whatever we are telling ourselves. So
absolutely.
when we don't question if the thought
Hmm.
is true, then we have this evidence, long-standing evidence to
Hmm.
support those thoughts.
Yes.
And when we change that thought,
Hmm.
we have to start to build the habit so that we have
Yeah,
the evidence available to us.
I love it. Whew, all powerful stuff. My gosh. All right. So what are some of our early signs of burnout? We know what it is now. We
Yeah.
know that there's some stuff that goes behind all of it. So what am I looking for?
Feeling tapped at all
Mm,
levels.
mm,
Physically, where are you feeling the burnout, the stress in your body? I
mhm,
know for me, I have always carried it in my shoulders and my neck. And at
mhm,
one point, I had like a lump in my neck
mm.
from stress. So, where are
Wow.
you feeling it? Are you getting the headaches? Is it in your abdomen? Wherever
Hmm.
it's showing up, pay attention to your body.
Ah.
Emotionally,
Mhm,
are you tired? Are
mm,
you irritable, quick to
mm,
anger in that sense?
mhm,
Crying at the drop of a dime?
mm,
Mentally feeling that fatigue. And
mhm.
I equate this to not just my age, but I can walk into the kitchen and be so from just in being exhausted, be like, why did I come here again?
Right.
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 And so it just knowing that mentally, when we're that exhausted,
Mhm.
we are not our best selves making decisions at work.
Oh, that is
Right.
powerful. That is powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And spiritually, how connected are you to your higher power, the
Hmm.
universe?
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
It
where,
all
what is
plays into
filling
it.
your bucket?
Hmm.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And, you know, something else that I would say is like when you're experiencing all of that and feeling the overwhelm, we're
Hmm.
not connected to our purpose.
Nope.
We may want to change, but
Hmm.
we're so tired we don't even know where to start. So
Yeah.
everything that even might be a simple first step feels too
Hmm.
much.
Mm. It's almost like your system has been hijacked, right?
Completely.
And now
Completely.
you're running out of control. The gas tank is
Yeah.
empty. The
Yeah.
engine, you're seeing the
Yep.
smoke. The lights are blinking. All the warning signs are there, and
Yeah.
we, for whatever reason, feel like, well, we just got to push through. Just got to keep going.
We have to push through. And I note this because I was actually on my way to see my son at college earlier this year, and it was not long after January 1st. And
Hmm.
so lots of new, you know, New Year's resolutions out
Hmm.
there hearing it. So I hear somebody on the radio. Yeah, it was in January. And the person on the radio was saying, it's just a few weeks after January 1st, if you're feeling that slump of your resolutions, just keep pushing through. I take
Oh,
issue with that
yeah,
because when we push through, we're not in alignment. We are
we're
doing
not.
something for the sake of doing it. And
Correct.
so getting to that why
Hmm.
is so critical
Hmm.
because most likely, if it's something important, it's not
Hmm.
easy. And so you're climbing uphill, and that
Hmm.
can lead to burnout if you're not connected
Mm.
with yourself
Yes.
and that purpose. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, pacing yourself, figuring out the roadmap, doing things
Yeah.
strategically, and building in that time for rest and relaxation. We have to find
Complete.
ways to rest and restore mind,
Yeah.
body, spirit, not just the physical, but all of it. All right, so let's jump into emotional, mental, and physical effects of burnout. We talked about it, we touched on them a
Yeah.
little bit, go a little deeper here. Term burnout is often used when someone has gone full steam ahead for too long and suddenly starts to decline in their emotional, mental, and physical health. As a life and leadership coach, you've had the opportunity to work with so many individuals, including yourself,
Yeah.
who've gone through the trenches, right? And you've gone through burnout, you know what it looks like. We know emotions are playing a big role in how we think and feel. The emotion wheel shows us that, right? There's a great emotion
Yeah.
wheel. If anybody hasn't looked at it, just Google emotion wheel. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
But it's a great tool that allows us to delve into the emotions and then hit the root cause that, starts off that emotion. What I would like to do is have you talk a little bit about central themes that you've seen in relation to emotional health when someone experiences burnout.
The emotional health piece can be really, really complicated. And so I do want to first, and this will come up with the mental piece of
Hmm.
this as
Hmm.
well, but I really do want to say that depending on where you are in your journey and any past traumas,
Hmm.
there's a big difference between coaching and therapy.
Oof.
And
Yes.
so that's a very important
Hmm.
disclaimer to note that anyone suffering from past trauma, feeling at a very severe level of emotional angst, mental
Hmm.
angst, please go seek a licensed medical provider because coaching
Glad
cannot
you
do
said
that
that.
for you.
Yes.
So,
Glad you said that.
so coaching in this space really
Hmm.
is when someone is certainly feeling pain, right? Or
Hmm.
else
Hmm.
they most likely are not reaching out.
Right.
But feeling pain, aware of where they are, and some sense of where they want to go forward. That's what
Hmm.
coaching is really focused on. And
Wow.
so when emotional burnout has shown
Hmm.
up with some of my clients, it's
Hmm.
really that not feeling motivated, not
Mm.
feeling that sense of purpose. So feeling just like, I'm here and now
Hmm.
what?
Hmm.
There's a void. There's also a level of withdrawal that I
Mm.
have seen. So shutting down,
Hmm.
feeling that there's so much on them at work that they are just so spent.
Mm.
They're doing what they need to do, but there's nothing left to give at home.
Hmm.
And there's the quick to anger that may come up when people at home or work start asking questions and they are like, I just don't want to talk.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. And so the
Hmm.
impact of burnout is not just work, it's the family relationships. It's the are you isolating yourself
Mm.
at this point?
Hmm.
Because emotionally, what's filling you?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then let's take it the step further. Let's go to mental health. And I love that you gave the disclaimer because we do need to make sure that people are seeking out the licensed medical professionals that can support, and that as you coach, you're able to make those referrals if you see those
Yeah.
concerns. And that's, so important. But what are you seeing as far as mental health goes when it comes to burnout?
Yeah. So honestly, I don't work with people who are in that deeper state of depression because
Okay.
um, people at that point really do
Sure.
need the support of a licensed therapist,
Mm-hmm.
counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And so really that's a space where I think it's so important just to note, right, that we can have a conversation. And if someone's already in a deeper place, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to refer out. Something else I want to mention, though, in the
Sure.
mental place,
Mm-hmm.
because even though this may start as a physical numbing
Mm-hmm.
measure, um, by action, the impact is on emotion, on mental, on all of it, right? Because we are
Mm-hmm.
whole people. We are whole people.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And so when we are in an extreme case of burnout,
Mm-hmm.
stress, numbing actions, whether it's alcohol, drugs,
Mm-hmm.
any other behavior, right, that we are
Mm-hmm.
masking the pain,
Right.
that is a time to seek professional help.
Mm.
And so quickly, one drink a night may turn into one bottle a night
Mm-hmm.
and the need for it
Yeah.
on a more frequent basis. And so those early signs are so critical
Mm.
because at the end of the day, they may initially mask the pain, but guess
Mm-hmm.
what? You're not sleeping through the night when you're doing that.
Right. Right.
Sleep is so critical to the burnout point. And
Mm-hmm.
so often when we are in burnout, we're not getting the recommended at least 7 hours a night at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
right? We're
Right.
functioning maybe on 4, 5, 6, if we're
Yeah.
lucky. And
Mm-hmm.
so any additional behavior is interrupting that already very little
Mm.
sleep.
Ugh. Yeah, well, it's hard to sleep when you're trying to figure out how to control the world,
That's right. Don't I
right?
know
When
it?
you're coming up with tomorrow's solution, right? In the quiet of
Exactly.
the evening when you're trying to quiet your mind, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, there's
And
all
and
these thoughts.
I love that you said that because there's actually there's a and I love this title, human performance scientist by the name of Dr. James Hewitt.
Okay.
And I love this quote. He says that really your game plan for the next day starts the night before. So
Does.
how you are setting yourself up that night before to
Mm.
get the rest, to turn
Yeah.
your mind off, at
Yeah.
least down,
Mm-hmm.
right? To
Mm-hmm.
not numb.
Right.
Yeah, it's also
Right.
critical to managing this burnout. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you were one of the humans that grew up with, you need to lay your clothes out the night before school and make sure your backpack
Yes.
is packed. Now you're really in trouble because you're like, oh, well, you've already inadvertently planned for tomorrow the night before,
Yeah.
so you start the thoughts. So yeah, we got to be able to figure out how to have the proper
Yes.
downtime and sleep, rest and relaxation routine. I always tell people, make sure you're turning the lights off a good hour before bed because the circadian rhythm, right? So bringing the lights
Yes.
down, turning the technology off, which is so hard
Yes.
because it's so easy to just scroll all night long. I'm guilty of it. So I'm not saying anything I don't do myself. But
Exactly.
being able to decompress and allow your body the opportunity to just kind of naturally zen out, and it's easier said than done. So you touched on a
Totally.
lot of the physical effects already. Was there anything else you wanted to add? I know you talked about there could be stress being held in the shoulders, the neck. Was there any other piece you wanted to contribute to the physical effects?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I mentioned the digestive piece of this, but let
Mhm.
me also mention, right, when we are in this place of burnout, I don't know about you, but I love a good piece of chocolate.
Oh, sure.
So how do we stress eat? When are we
Mm-hmm.
stress eating? And then are we exercising? Are we going for the
Mm-hmm.
walk? Are we
Right.
not? We're too
Right.
tired.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole impact of our physical health from
Mm-hmm.
nutrition to where we carry the actual stress in our
Yeah.
body, right?
Yeah.
And then think of the heart. Think of what
Mm-hmm.
all the stress does inside of
Right.
our body that we don't see. Yeah.
Yes. Ooh, I love all these tips. These are important things, folks. I hope all our listeners are like ready to do the download and replay this because there's a lot action packed into this episode. Okay, as a life and leadership coach, you often meet clients who are reaching out and they've already gone through the cyclone of chaos, as I call it, that leads
Yeah.
to burnout. Can you share a client experience or two? Of course, keep it confidential with their
Yeah.
names, that
Yeah.
speaks to the aftermath of burnout and how it can be turned around. Because there is hope, folks. Everybody
Yes.
listening, you can recover from burnout. So
Yes.
talk to us, share a story or two.
Yeah. So I will share some general points from this one
Uh-huh.
story that has just touched me in a way that it's such a privilege to walk with people when they are in this place of pain
Mhm.
and we know that there's light on the other side, right? It's not
Mhm.
going to be perfect. We're
Right.
humans. It's a
Right.
human journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so this client was feeling stress, responsibility from a personal company, taking care
Mm-hmm.
of people, and really just feeling so responsible for all these decisions and things that needed to happen in order to grow. And there were some stress points in the personal space as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it gets back to that inner work. It all starts, and this was my journey too. It all starts with that inner work. We have to recognize what's going on in
Mm-hmm.
our bodies, in our
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to be able to step back from those thoughts so that we
Mm-hmm.
can then be intentional. And when the client started doing some work in that space,
Mm-hmm.
things started to open up. And
Oh,
so just the questioning of, is it true that I'm responsible for all of this?
right.
Is it true that I need to keep all this stress to myself, or can
Mm.
I actually share with people at work, at home?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so still walking through very hard decisions.
Mhm. Mhm.
in a way that is in line with values
Mhm.
and what the client wants for the business and the
Mm.
family at home.
Mm.
And so
I love that.
often and when I'm working with someone and there's that sort of shift, I can see it right away over the
Mhm.
screen. And there's a
Yeah.
light that comes to their
Yeah.
face,
Oh.
and it's so revealing because they are starting to see, here's how it
Mhm.
can be. Here's what I
Mhm.
can do. Here's how I can be. And,
Yeah.
sometimes there's not the shift. Sometimes we
Mhm.
sit for a little bit in the pain
Mhm.
point
Mhm.
because it doesn't always happen in one call, right?
Right.
Oftentimes it's multiple layers of work.
Yes.
And in working with another client who was going through multiple life transitions and trying
Mhm.
to figure out what to do as
Mhm.
children go off and do their own thing, what
Yeah.
comes next in the
Mm.
professional journey, where they want to live
Mm.
in their spiritual walk.
Right.
And so, again, starting with awareness of what are your values? What's your
Mm.
purpose? What impact do you want?
Mhm.
And when we can get in touch, when this client was starting to get in touch with what it is that they wanted, the
Mhm.
pieces start moving in that direction.
Ah.
Again, the mind starts seeing the evidence of what's
Yes.
possible there. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, we self-sabotage
we
sometimes, right?
do
Not even
completely.
realizing it. And
Yeah,
I remember talking to somebody one day and they said to me, "What's the worst that can happen?" I was freaking out about something as I normally
yeah,
do. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I got to make this happen." And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I guess the worst that can happen is it doesn't get done." And what happens
yeah,
if it doesn't get done?
yeah,
Nobody's going to lose their life, so that's
yeah.
good. And so
Right.
it's the reality sometimes of realizing you don't have to do it all, and you try the best you can, and the worst that is going to happen is, and whatever that could be. Now if
Yeah,
you're dealing with, certain situations, if you're in occupations like military or police, or and
yeah,
certain things depend, then it's
yeah.
different. But
Right.
oftentimes we create in our own mind this urgency, this, if I don't do it, who's going to get it done? And when we
Yes.
go there, it's like, oh, I don't know, maybe one of the other thousands of people that work in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
office. Like, it's so interesting to see how our pressures are normally created by ourselves and we project them
Oh,
outwards.
you are so spot on. And,
Ah,
even me, right? Like I know these techniques. I
yes.
have shifted into being an entrepreneur at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Yes.
This is a whole new journey. And I will
Yes.
tell you, there's no harder boss for me than me.
Absolutely.
And so if I'm not careful, I will run myself to burnout and I can't even
Yes.
blame anybody else.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's that point of how am I recognizing what's going on?
Mhm.
How am I assessing what really needs to be done? And what
Right.
is the worst thing that happens if I don't post online? Really?
Right. Right.
You
Tomorrow
know?
will show up and you can post tomorrow. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a trivial example, I
Yes.
know,
No, but it's a
but
real one.
it's a real one. It's a
It's a
real
real
one.
one, especially when you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
Yes, yes. It's so important that that we point that out, that even those of us who work in this space, and it often is those of us who work in certain spaces, we're struggling with the same concepts. It's always
Yeah,
easier to share and talk to somebody about something, and then you look back and you're like, well, I'm able to share that because I'm very familiar with that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And to
yeah.
quote what one client said to me, I would have gotten there eventually,
Mhm.
but in working with you, I got
Mhm.
there much faster. And that's the idea, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I have coaches
Yes.
and like you were talking about
Mhm.
earlier, Kristen, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we can all try to do this work on our own.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just when you have that external springboard to
Yeah.
share information, to bounce feelings, to have that safe space, that
Mhm.
psychological safe space to share what's really going on.
Yes.
And then from there, there's a release so that
Mhm.
you've put the obstacles out there and now we get to look at options.
Yes. And I love the fact that when you have a coach, because I've talked to a lot of people who say, well, I talk to my brother, I talk to my sister, I talk to my best friend. Let's remind ourselves, those are people that are in your corner. So
Yeah.
more often than not, they're going to enable or facilitate the thought process you have because they love you and they're like, yes, we know you've got this. When you're working with a coach, you remove some of the bias that exists so that you can get some outside information, but you're really, as the coach, the person, and I always like to share this, coaching and mentoring are two different things. The mentor
Yeah.
shares their experiences, the coach
Yeah.
pulls it out of you. It's important to recognize that working with that coach, they're coaching you through you coming up to your own answer. And
Yeah.
so I think that's important because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I
Yeah.
don't need a coach. What do I need a coach for? I've got so and
Yeah.
so down the street over here. Yeah. Well, the reason you're still having the same conversation is because they're agreeing with what you're saying. So the
Or
coach can help you
not.
challenge your inner critic. The coach is going to
Right.
say, well, what if we
Yeah.
looked at it different? And it's like, oh, so the aha moments happen
Yeah. Yeah.
and the breaking of the patterns and the cycles, the self discovery, the unpeeling the layers of the onion. So,
That's
all
right.
right, so let's talk prevention and recovery because I know
Yeah.
we've got a few more to go and we're deep in this and we're going to bring you back on because we're going to need more time here. So what are
Okay.
some of the ways people can avoid burnout? You touched on a little bit, but let's go a little deeper.
I first have to underscore sleep, the importance of sleep.
Hmm.
We think that we can get by on less than 7, and
Hmm.
we just cannot. We are not
Hmm.
superhumans. And
Hmm.
so the body needs that recovery time, the brain needs that recovery time. So that's a must. I wish I had recognized that many years ago, but this past year has been
Hmm.
my proof of concept in that space.
I love it.
Two, connect with nature. I think this is a really important one.
Hmm.
Uh, go for that walk.
Hmm.
Go be outside where you can. If you cannot be outside, find some sort of quiet space inside to be intentional about your downtime. But there's something
Mm.
about being in nature that shifts the way our brain thinks.
Oh,
So
yes.
I just really want to underscore that too. Protecting your boundaries.
Ooh,
That's a hard one.
it is. That's a hot
Even
topic.
it's a hot topic. I schedule things on my calendar, and the first thing
Hmm.
that will always get moved around will be what I'm doing for me, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So protecting your boundaries is, how do I say this is important? Because what goes on the calendar should be important.
Hmm.
And
Agreed.
so I'm not saying we have to go do the hour massage or take the
Hmm.
hour bath,
Right.
whatever some sort of downtime for you looks
Hmm.
like.
Hmm.
Reading, whatever the case.
Yes.
It's just so important to make yourself that priority.
Mm.
For leadership, for the leaders working with teams and even
Hmm.
with families, communication, sharing what's going on.
Hmm.
When we do this, attempt to do this in isolation, we spiral more into the dark part of
Oh,
burnout.
yes.
And so by sharing and being
Hmm.
vulnerable, we're
Hmm.
also able to ask, how are you doing? And
Mm.
creating that safe space for others
Yes.
to
And
really
meaning
share
it. And
and
meaning it,
meaning
not
it.
just a formality. The people that say, "Hey, how
Exactly.
you doing?" and they keep walking. It's like you didn't care how
Right.
I was doing. You kept walking.
No, no.
Yeah.
It's truly being intentional
Hmm.
with our communication.
Hmm.
So I would say those are let me add one more, sorry.
Yeah.
The prioritization. I mentioned protecting the boundaries, right?
Hmm.
And what
Hmm.
goes on the calendar, but really being hard and fast about prioritizing your time.
Mm.
That 20%, where are you really focusing?
Right. And you said something that's really important. We tend to say, "Oh, okay, so I've run out of time on my calendar. I'm gonna cut out my gym time, or I'm
Yeah,
gonna cut out my, evening relaxation bath or my walk because I need to fit this other thing in here that's so
yeah,
important." And if we're prioritizing everyone before ourselves, it's a problem because you
Yeah.
can't show up as your best self without prioritizing yourself.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to fill your cup for you.
No, they're not. They are not
Mm-mm.
going to fill it. And we can't give what we don't have.
Absolutely.
So it's replenishing ourselves
Right.
so that we can also, I love to say, ripple effect out so that
Yeah.
we can be that light out,
Mm.
but we can't give what we don't have either.
Oh, man. Hitting all the topics today. I love it. All right. So what does the process of recovery from burnout look like? Like how does that you've shown up, you're completely exhausted, you're done, you're just spent. How do we
Yeah.
how do we get there? How do we recover?
Step one is that awareness. We have to be
Mm,
aware of what it is that we're truly experiencing.
okay.
Step two is taking stock of what's the situation. Are there changes that I can make?
Mm-hmm.
Starting
Mm-hmm.
small. Everything
Mm,
starts with one small action.
okay.
We can't go from this to this overnight
Mm-hmm.
because it likely took years to build up to this place in the first place, right? So we're not changing our thoughts overnight,
Mm-hmm.
but we can be aware and we
Mm-hmm.
can say, what is one small action that I can do? And maybe
Mm,
it's that we start to rub the fingertips together
mm-hmm.
or rub a bracelet, the
Yeah.
jacket, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is for you in that awareness to break the thought pattern and be intentional. So once we start to become intentional and being aware and breaking that pattern, the next small step,
Mm-hmm.
how do we shift our calendars? How are we
Mm,
prioritizing ourselves?
mm-hmm.
Is it that we need to make a big change, like a
Mm-hmm.
job
Mm-hmm.
or move? I
Mm-hmm.
would not encourage anyone to go make those decisions from a place of burnout.
Mm,
So centering yourself, getting rooted, and if that means reaching out to a coach, to a
mm-hmm.
therapist or counselor, then please do that
Mm-hmm.
because making other big decisions while in a place of burnout means that we're not really doing the work, we're changing the external circumstances.
Mm, big point there to be made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. All right. So, how do we prevent the relapse of burnout? So, we've gone on the journey, we've gotten ourselves together, we're starting to feel really good again.
Yeah.
It's easy to slide back into old patterns. So,
Yeah.
how do we prevent that relapse?
Well, we do start to recognize the patterns much quicker. And
Okay.
so, using myself as an example, right? I noted I've
Mm-hmm.
changed positions, I
Mm-hmm.
retired, started my own company.
Yeah.
I started seeing, oh, I'm sliding back into these patterns of working
Mm-hmm.
until 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
I'm not sleeping
Mm-hmm.
my 7 hours. So
Okay.
I noted, oh, this is not
Mm-hmm.
serving me.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to that point much quicker once
Okay.
you've been through the other side
Mm-hmm.
before. And so from there, it's okay, what worked for me before?
Mm-hmm.
What changes do I need to make here and now? So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I'll use a personal example. I prefer to go to the gym in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That has not always worked for me in this new role, depending on when I have calls. So,
Okay.
what's a new good time I can put this on my calendar and protect that time?
Ah.
So, constantly assess where you
Mm-hmm.
are and what changes you need to make. You have to be committed to that, though.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be committed to not stay stuck in repeating those patterns.
Ooh. So it reminds me my in my former life as a leader, I always had one motto for my teams and they all knew it. Every interview I always said the same thing. The only way you can work on this team is if you're flexible and adaptable. And
Yeah.
I feel like that applies here. And so everybody knew me. They'd see Kristen, they're like flexible and adaptable. And I'm like, yes, because you're got to ebb and flow with the circumstances. And
You
you
do.
just demonstrated that with saying, okay, this is how I used to do things. I'm not going to give up something that works for me, but I am going to be flexible and adaptable and move it to where it still is part of my life. It just might be at a different time. So it's
Yeah.
that change, that internal change management piece that we have to work through with
Yeah.
ourselves. Yeah, but you didn't give it up. You didn't throw in the
No.
towel, and that's what I love is you said, this is something that works for me. It may not be in this scenario working at this particular time, but
Yeah.
the world asking that question, what's going to happen if you don't go to the gym in the morning?
Yeah.
And you just said, well, I'm going to go in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah.
And
And
everybody's still happy.
and giving yourself grace, because for
Mm,
me, going in the afternoon or evening may mean I'm not doing the same weight that I might do in the morning
right.
because I'm tired.
Yes. Yes.
But the fact is, I still went. So
Yes.
giving myself some grace, celebrating the wins,
Mm,
that's such a key point to all of this. When we
yeah.
start to catch the thoughts, change our
Hmm.
actions,
Hmm.
take 5, 10 minutes and celebrate that, because when we celebrate, like, hey, I just caught this thought and I'm choosing not to live in this place,
Hmm.
our brain starts to say, oh, there's a dopamine hit, there's some joy here. And
Yeah.
that is how we start to build the new habits that will get
Oh,
us out of the hole.
I love it. So I can empathize. I'm a morning gym person myself. And the reason why, for all my listeners who are gym people or who are just contemplating going to the gym, I used to say it's not for the vanity purpose. It's for my mental sanity because there's something about working out in the morning that kind of it gives you that dopamine rush. It gets your mind in the right mindset. And it used to
Yeah.
keep me from saying a lot of things that I might
Yes.
have said. And so I go and I
Totally.
get the frustrations out. I was the girl doing the kickboxing classes and the spin classes and all of those because I knew I have a lot of energy and I have to use it in a constructive way. But for those who don't have a routine or are looking at the gym or anything, even if it's just walking in the morning, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like, such a helpful tool in assisting in that process of giving yourself that release. Because for those of us that are very hyper or type A, we usually need a release. So it's a healthy
Exactly.
alternative to some of the others.
Exactly.
So we are coming to conclusion. This has been so informative, but I want to give you a chance. I always ask all of my guests, if you could share one message with our listeners, what would it be?
Don't stay stuck in the autopilot place.
Mm,
Give yourself grace for whatever it is that got you to where you are,
mhm,
and know that you actually have a choice in creating the thoughts and the patterns to
mm,
get you to the other side. And when I say to the other side, that means leading with intention and purpose
mm.
in a way that inspires those around you to rise up to. And it's hard, but the alternative is to stay stuck in the spiraling down.
Mm. Ooh, profound. I love it. Jen, please share with our listeners how can they get in touch with you if they would like to have you be their coach or learn more about your work. Where can we find you?
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So my website is journeyofgracecoaching.com. I would welcome you to take a look, reach out from there. You can find me on LinkedIn at Jen Brown hyphen coach, and Instagram is at Jen underscore journey of grace.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for being with us today. For our listeners, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of Surviving the Human Experience. And until next time, be well and stay blessed.